Genocide by policy, the Trump administration's assault on the vulnerable. Now, I've decided to make a little pivot on my channel. I was really hoping it would be a comedy channel, but that's not working. But people seem to like my political takes, and a friend of mine wrote this thing just for herself. She just wrote it, and she's given me permission to read it, and it's a bit of a read, but I would like you to hear it, so let's do this together. Sorry. Genocide does not begin with mass graves or overt calls to exterminate. It begins quietly through bureaucracy, deprivation, and manipulation of law. The Trump administration is deliberately dismantling social safety nets, militarizing immigration policy, and assaulting democratic norms in ways that mirror the early stages of state-engineered persecution. Weaponizing poverty and hunger. One of the clearest measures of government's morality lies in how it treats those who have the least. The Trump administration repeatedly slashes supplemental nutrition assistance programs, benefits, imposes cruel work requirements, and stigmatizes aid recipients. These actions are not about fiscal responsibility, but about social control. Millions of low-income Americans, especially disabled individuals, single parents, and children are forced to choose between food and survival. Denying nourishment in a nation of abundance is not economic policy. It is a declaration of whose lives matter. Healthcare as a tool of exclusion. The administration relentlessly attacks the Affordable Care Act, undermines Medicaid, and strips protections for pre-existing conditions. For people with chronic illnesses, mental health disorders, and disabilities, healthcare access determines life or death. The calculated withdrawal of that access becomes a weapon of slow-motion genocide killing, not with bullets, but through neglect, suffering, and abandonment. She's a goddamn good writer, right? Deportation, detention, and alligator Alcatraz. Trump's vision of America extends beyond its borders into a vast architecture of detention and deportation. Families are torn apart, children are caged, and asylum seekers are treated as criminals instead of human beings seeking refuge. Immigration and customs enforcement expands its reach, and detention centers, many privately run, multiply across the country. Even U.S. citizens suspected of being undocumented are detained in these facilities. What activists call alligator Alcatraz stands as a symbol of cruelty and control. Modern labor camps designed to break bodies and spirits. These centers embody a vision of America as a white Christian ethno-state, where non-white, non-Christian, and politically undesirable people are cast out, imprisoned, or left to die in the shadows. Reallocation of resources and the rise of the oligopoly. While marginalized communities are targeted and scapegoated, wealth continues to flow upward. Corporate tax cuts, deregulation, and dismantling of worker protections consolidate power among oligopolies. The merger of corporate and state interests creates an economy of servitude, an American proto-oligarchy where labor is exploited, dissent is punished, and human value is measured only in profit. This economic order mirrors the structural foundations of fascism, where inequality is both the tool and the goal. This is where I have to disagree with her. It doesn't just mirror it, it's fucking fascism. Tariff-driven inflation, pricing people out of existence. Trump's tariff-driven economic strategy deepens this cruelty. Tariffs on essential imports from food and medicine to technology and fuel function is a hidden tax on survival. Prices rise across the board, and the poor bear the brunt. Families already struggling to afford groceries, insulin, or rent find themselves priced out of existence. Inflation fueled by protectionist posturing becomes a silent culling mechanism, one that rewards the wealthy who can absorb the cost while condemning millions to deprivation. This is not economic nationalism, it is economic warfare against the working class. As wages stagnate and necessities become luxuries, poverty transforms into a death sentence. Tariff-driven inflation ensures that those on the margins are not merely forgotten, but erased from participation in economic life altogether. How do people not understand how tariffs work? The gaslighting. The people who once spoke of values, integrity, and faith now twist facts, rewrite history, and deny what I and they clearly saw. Every conversation becomes a battle for reality itself, where empathy is mocked as weakness and questioning injustice is branded as betrayal. The trust I once felt has turned into disillusionment. It's as though the moral compass I believed we shared has been deliberately shattered. Their denial of harm, their justifications for cruelty leave me not only heartbroken, but deeply aware of how propaganda can corrode conscience from the inside out. Congressional complicity and the collapse of accountability. Congress enables this moral decay through inaction and cowardice. Lawmakers hesitate to challenge corruption, white nationalist violence, and open defiance of the rule of law. Their refusal to hold Trump accountable for the January 6th insurrection normalizes impunity for an attempted coup. Silence becomes complicity, inaction becomes betrayal. Each day that accountability is denied, the rule of law weakens and democracy decays. Culture of dehumanization. The groundwork for genocide is always linguistic before it becomes physical. Trump's language about immigrants, Muslims, the disabled, gender, women, sexual orientation, and political opponents dehumanizes entire groups. His administration institutionalizes cruelty, rewarding indifference and punishing compassion. Americans are conditioned to see empathy as weakness and diversity as a danger. When governance becomes domination, the moral descent accelerates. And finally, the fragile line between policy and atrocity. The Trump administration's legacy is not in the past, it is unfolding now. Its treatment of the poor, the sick, the immigrant, and the non-white is part of the coherent plan to redefine America as a white Christian ethno-state built on fear and exclusion. Tariff-driven inflation and economic austerity serve as tools of quiet extermination, pricing the vulnerable out of the economy and into desperation. Genocide begins when a government decides some people do not deserve food, medicine, or safety. It begins with laws that make survival impossible and rhetoric that makes cruelty acceptable. When Congress excuses insurrection, when citizens normalize hate, and when leaders abandon truth, the nation stands at the threshold of atrocity. The question is no longer whether the warning signs exist, but whether America will choose to see them before it is too late. I just thought that was amazing. I wanted to read it to you guys before I start full on attacking fascism, Chris Valenti style. Okay, bye.